What's up, y'all? Welcome back to GridironTalkZone. It's Nick here. Today I'm doing my power rankings. Week 10 power rankings. We're 10 weeks into the NFL season now. Well, 9 weeks of football play, but this is going to be week 10 this upcoming week. I feel like this is the first power rankings where feel like I'm starting to get a good feel of where these teams are as now and going forward. But there's a couple of teams that I think are going to get going high, and we'll talk about those teams. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into the power rankings. Starting off with the number 32 team, I have the Houston Texans. The Texans, they're still a one-win team here. They did actually play the Eagles pretty good Thursday night in the first half, but then they just showed their limitations in the second half. They're limited at quarterback with Davis Mills. The run defense isn't very good at all. The secondary is actually somewhat impressive with Derek Stingley, but it's still not good enough to get the job done. And I don't expect this team to win many more games going forward. I think they're going to end with about 2, 3, 4 wins max by the end of the year. And we'll see if they can move up at all. But as of now, they're moving down one spot to 32. On to 31, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers coming off a Week 9 bye week. But last time we saw them play, they were destroyed by the Eagles in Week 8. And just overall, they're a 2-win team. They have beat two impressive teams, the Bengals Week 1, the Bucks. They beat the Bucks at some point this season. So overall, those are two impressive wins. But looking at the whole picture, this is a team that has gotten blown out multiple times, granted by good teams, but they're still not looking good at all. Quarterback Pickett hasn't looked good since they benched Trubisky. They just traded away Chase Claypool last week on offense at receiver. Najee Harris has a disappointing season so far. The O-line's not good. TJ Watt's been out on the defense, so this team's just a mess right now. And unfortunately, it looks like Mike Tomlin is going to have his first losing season as a head coach. But after Big Ben retiring, you knew this had to be a transition year. I still thought the Steelers would be way better than they are right now, like middle of the pack team, but they're looking like a bottom team in football right now, so they're at 31, down one spot. Number 30, I have the Carolina Panthers, just lost to the Bengals in a blowout. I believe it was 35-0 or something crazy at halftime. They benched PJ Walker, put Baker in the second half, and made it like 42-21. But overall, this Panthers team, up until last week, looks like maybe they were climbing up the ranks a little bit, but they just had a bad performance last week. And overall, they're not a very good football team, so they're at number 30. On to 29, I have the Detroit Lions, snapping, I believe it was a 5-game losing streak after they just beat the Green Bay Packers. This team, they've been up and down offensively wise. Defensively has been pretty much bad all year. They actually have pretty crucial turnovers. Last game, though, was definitely the best game of the year on defense. But overall, this offense, it feels like one week it can explode. The next week it can just not do much at all. I don't think Dan Campbell's going to last after this year as head coach unless they seriously turn it around, unfortunately for them. But yeah, I think that the Lions moving up 3 spots because an impressive win versus the Packers. But overall, the sample size on the whole year, we're talking about a 2-win football team. So nothing special here, but they're at 29. On to 28, I have the New Orleans Saints moving down 2 spots after a disappointing performance versus the Baltimore Ravens. But it's a game you expect them to lose in. But overall, this year, the Saints just haven't impressed at all. Looking at the standings, the third in the NFC South with a 3-6 record. Looks like Dalton might actually be the quarterback the rest of the year instead of James Winston now. But yeah, they've been injured at wide receiver. Michael Thomas is going to be out for the rest of the year. Lattimore has been banged up this year, so injuries have hurt him. But I just think that the loss of Sean Payton has a huge impact on this team, and they're at 28 right now after a disappointing start to the first half of the season. On to number 27, I have the Arizona Cardinals, another disappointing team, 3-6. Although they made the playoffs last year, I kind of wasn't expecting them to do that this year. But they've been actually a little bit more disappointing than I thought, and I think I had them as a 7 or 8 win team, which it looks like they could be on track to that. But getting swept by Seattle, definitely disappointing. You lost to Seattle this last week by 10 points. So you're going to move down 2 spots to number 2. We'll see how much longer Cliff Kingsbury lasts there in Arizona. On to number 26. Man, this team just can't execute situationally. End of games, they can't finish games. The number 26, the Raiders, moving down 5 spots after blowing a 17-0 lead, I think it was, to the Jaguars. just overall, this Raiders team has been very frustrating to watch throughout the year. Well, it looks like they're a good team for, like, on paper, it looks like they should be a good team. And on the field, even sometimes, they look like a good team. But when it comes to the fourth quarter and closing games, this team cannot close games. If you cannot close games consistently week after week versus any team, you're not a good football team. So they're at 26 right now. They have a 2-6 record. So it's looking like it's going to be a disappointing season in Josh McDaniels' first season as the Raiders head coach. They're down 5 spots. Number 25. Oh boy, we have a lot to talk about with this team. The Indianapolis Colts. So going back 2 weeks ago, they benched Matt Ryan for Sam Ehlinger. They were 3-3-1. Now they've lost 2 straight. They're 3-5-1. Last week they fired the offensive coordinator Marcus Brady, and now this week, after the game Sunday, on Monday they fired head coach Frank Reich, which I was on record saying on this podcast if they fired Frank Reich, I said after week 2 that would be the worst move, one of the worst moves in franchise history, because I do think Frank Reich is still a really good football coach, and I stand by that. I don't think it's a good move at all firing Frank Reich. You look at his track record, bad quarterback play year after year, and he can still get this team to the playoffs 2 out of his 4 years with very inconsistent quarterback play. You look at the receiver play. Yes, Pittman's good. Pierce is pretty good too, but it doesn't feel like they have that elite dominant receiver, and they haven't had that at all under Frank Reich, because when Reich got there, T.Y. Hilton was declining, and so this team just a mess right now. O-line's looking terrible. Running game is non-existent. Jay Taylor's been banged up this year. Defense is good. I'll give him that. But Ellinger at quarterback. Maybe they'll go back to Matt Ryan at some point. They hired Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach. That was pretty much a shocker. But I like Jeff Saturday. We'll see how he does as his first coaching job. But yeah, right now this team is a mess. So they're down 8 spots. Going to the game, though, they lost to the Patriots in Foxborough, I believe, 26-3. Very historically poor performance offensively for the Colts. So we can move on to number 24. At number 24, I have the Green Bay Packers moving down 5 spots. Now, this is a shocker that they're 3-6 and through 9 games into the season. This is something I was not expecting for the Packers to be 3-6. Just disappointing football overall, especially on the offensive side of the ball. People have been complaining about the play calling. Rodgers and the receivers haven't been able to establish chemistry this year at all. So the loss of Devontae Adams is looking big. It's definitely hurt this offense. The O-line's declining. Now they're getting banged up with injuries. I think the season's over, personally. I don't see really any chance at all that they make the playoffs. They did lose to the Lions this past weekend, moving down 5 spots. But we can go on to number 23. So as a Bears fan, I am personally very happy to say, first time in years I've had the Bears above the Packers at any point in the season in the power rankings. So that seems good. Bears move up 4 spots. They did lose to the Miami Dolphins by 3 points, though. So they played them close, and this offense this last few weeks has looked explosive. Fields, big plays on the ground with his leg. Would like to see him throw the ball in the air a little bit more than he has, but he's definitely been efficient when throwing the football. They just added Chase Claypool. The defense looks bad right now, which is hurting them, but it's an offensive league. When you can put up points, you can compete with anybody. And after almost beating the Dolphins, it shows that the Bears can really compete now, more than at any point of the season, really. So right now, the Bears looking very good, moving up 4 spots. Well, I'm not going to say very good. I don't know why I said that. Take that back. They look good for what we expected going into the year. They're starting to look good and pick it up and maybe be a second half team that goes on a mini run or so, but we'll see. On to number 22, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars up 6 spots. They did just beat the Raiders on a comeback win, so it's not like an amazing win, but they move up 6 spots. Just what's happening around them. You see the Colts, Raiders moving down, Cardinals, Saints moving down. So just look at what's happening around them, really, and the Packers move down. But yeah, the Jags, been similar to the Raiders in the fact that they haven't been able to close games, but it was nice to see them close a game versus the Raiders this last weekend. Actually coming back versus the Raiders. 3-6 football team. I still feel like this team needs to become more consistent throughout the game and week to week to keep moving up this list, but we'll see how the second half of the season goes for them. On to number 21, I have the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns up 3 spots on a bye week, so kind of just moved up because what happened around them. Nothing to really analyze here, although We can go back to 2 weeks ago when they beat the Bengals on Monday Night Football in a blowout win. That was impressive. But Browns, 3-5 football team. Not too far off, actually, from them getting Watson back. We'll see how that goes for them. But yeah, they move up 3 spots, just kind of what happened around them because they want to buy. On to number 20, the Falcons. They lost to the Chargers on a game-winning field goal for the Chargers. But the Falcons, impressive performance. Again, just what's happening around them moves them up 2 spots. But nonetheless, the Falcons have impressed me a little bit more than I thought they would this year. The 4-5, still definitely in the race with the Bucs for the NFC South. We'll see how that goes. But Falcons at 20. Number 19, I have the Denver Broncos. Another team that was on a bye, going back to the Browns, but the Broncos move up 4 spots on a bye, so that's kind of odd to see. But again, lots of teams moving down. 2 weeks ago, Sunday morning in London, or wherever the game was played overseas, the Broncos beat the Jaguars. Broncos 3-5. They play close games. Just like to see them start to win those close games, and they can keep moving up this list. But right now, they're at 19. On to number 18, the Washington Commanders, team that's been playing very good football the last month. They won 3 out of the last 4 games. They just almost beat the Minnesota Vikings. Really wish they would have closed out that game for their sake at home. But they're moving up 2 spots. You compete with a 6-1, now 7-1 team, and you almost beat them. That's impressive. Combine the fact that they're just playing good football right now. So they're going to move up 2 spots, number 18. On to number 17, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Defending Super Bowl champions, been very disappointing. 3-5. Poor offensive performances, especially in the fourth quarter, and poor defense in the fourth quarter. But this team has a minus 42 point differential. So they're just getting outscored by like more than you would expect them to. And they're 3-5. They do move up 1 spot. Kind of surprised that I had that, but because they didn't play well versus the Bucs. But again, just what's happening around them affects the movement mainly. But yeah, so the Rams at 17. See if they can start to pick it up, but right now it's not looking too good for them. On to the top half of the power rankings. Number 16, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers just had an impressive fourth quarter late game drive versus the Rams to win. Get to 4-5. Still a disappointing start to the year, but I feel like they played pretty good in the second half of the Ravens Thursday night game going back a few weeks ago, and you were able to execute a late game situation versus the defending Super Bowl champs. Granted, they don't look as good as they were last year, but still starting to maybe heat up for the Bucs. We'll see. They have a game in Seattle this weekend, who's a pretty good football team, so that's going to be a big test for them in, I believe, Germany or something. But yeah, so Bucs at 16. Still a disappointing start for the Bucs though. On to number 15, the Patriots. So the Bucs stayed put at 16. The Patriots also stayed put at their spot at 15. The Patriots coming off a win versus the Colts, who have just looked like a mess right now. It was a 26-3 game, but it seems like most of the teams ahead of the Patriots, most of them won, so that really doesn't help the Patriots' case for moving up. So they're going to stay put at 15, but looks like it can be a pretty solid football team who can maybe compete for a wild card spot in the AFC. On to number 14, the Chargers, they moved down after a loss. They moved down after a win, excuse me. They beat the Falcons. The Chargers beat the Falcons, but they moved down 1 spot just because didn't feel like they played the best ball they could have played, and team that was below them last week had a huge win, so they have to move above them. We'll get to that team in a few minutes, but yeah, Chargers, they've been disappointing this year. Injuries have affected them, but definitely like to see them start to pick it up. Herbert at quarterback, I really want to see him make the playoffs, so let's see how the season ends for them, but right now they're at 14. On to number 13, the Dolphins. So they did beat the Bears, good offensive performance, but the defense didn't look very good. That's what's moving them down 3 spots, and just because the teams around them had pretty impressive wins. So the Dolphins, they're still a 6-3 football team. So they are on a 3-game winning streak. The season's been weird. 3-0, then they go to 3-3 after the Tua injury. Now they win 3 straight to go to 6-3. So we'll see how the season plays out for them. But on paper, this team can beat anybody in the AFC. The offense is looking very good. They're well coached by Mike McDaniel. Defense has the talent to be really good. It wasn't last week, but we'll see if it starts to pick it up. On to number 12, talk about an impressive defense. The New York Jets just beat the Buffalo Bills. An impressive win for the Jets. So the Jets, the 6-3, definitely better than I expected them to be this year. They move up 2 spots from last week. Don't have them moving up any more than this just because so many teams above them won, seems like. So the Jets, though, impressive win. Defense is playing really good right now. Offense doing enough to win games. Definitely like to see them and Zach Wilson start to step it up and make this team a real threat to win serious playoff games. But right now, it's looking like they're going to be a playoff team. Now, if I'm predicting for the end of the year, don't know if I'd say that, but it's looking like right now that the one of the top 7 teams in the AFC. So we can see if they'll continue this in a few weeks. Me and my buddy Graham will do a updated playoff predictions. So we'll see where we have the Jets and other teams. But we can move on to number 11. The Seattle Seahawks move up 1 spot from last week after an impressive 10-point win in Arizona to sweep the Cardinals this year and move to 6-3. It's weird. So the Seahawks are in control of the NFC West right now. I again going back to the Jets, I don't know if I can say that the Seahawks are going to control the NFC West the whole year. But by the way it's looking, it wouldn't shock me. I still think their defense, when they play some good offenses, is going to cost them games. But with Geno Smith playing MVP caliber football, yes, Geno Smith is playing MVP caliber football, and you have a run game led by Kenneth Walker, and you have good receivers in DK Metcalf, who's still dealing with some injury stuff, and Tyler Lockett. Although I think DK Metcalf should be good to go for a while now, but you have the talent on offense. And I didn't even mention the tight end Noah Fant. You definitely have the offensive talent, and Pete Carroll's a really good coach. So we'll see how the Seahawks season plays out. But right now, they're definitely impressing me at 6-3. So I have to give them some respect. Have them at number 11. On to number 10, I have the Cincinnati Bengals, who just blew out the Carolina Panthers. Offensive explosion for the Bengals. Joe Mixon had 5 combined touchdowns. That was impressive. But yeah, the Bengals move up 1 spot. The Bengals are still a 5-4 football team. I feel like they're better than the record shows, though. But they have to start winning those games versus really good teams that they seems like they haven't been able to win this year. So, but right now, I think the Bengals pretty good football team. Have them at number 10. On to number 9, I have the Tennessee Titans staying put at number 9 after almost beating the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. It felt like they really outplayed the Chiefs until late in the game. They just couldn't execute. But they had Malik Willis. I think if the Titans had Ryan Tannehill in the Sunday Night Football game, 1, I would have picked them to win. 2, I think they would have won the game easily. They just match up so well with the Chiefs. But yeah, definitely a very good, well-coached football team. Very good defensively. And Derrick Henry, man, he's a monster. One of the best running backs we've ever seen. Leads this offense. And when Tannehill's in there, they're still a passing threat too. So definitely like this team going forward. But right now, have them at 9. So that's still a good ranking. But they're not moving down after almost beating the Chiefs with a backup quarterback. So I have the Titans at 9. On to number 8 in the power rankings, I have the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers off a bye week, but the week before that had an impressive win versus the Los Angeles Rams. McCaffrey's looking good. Defense is very good. Coach is very good. Garoppolo's doing enough to get the job done. Have so many offensive weapons. This team is definitely a premier threat to the Eagles in the NFC going forward. But off a bye week, didn't really move them at all. On number 7, another team out of bye week, Giants, 6-2 under Dable, been playing pretty good football, winning close games. Which, hey, give me ugly wins over pretty losses any day in the NFL. And the Giants on a bye week though, so they stay put at number 7. Number 6, the Vikings. They did win versus the Commanders. Wasn't the prettiest win. Had to come from behind. And overall, they're just going to move down 1 spot. But they are 7-1, so that's definitely something to be impressed about. But it's really nothing to do with the Vikings besides, not having the best performance versus the Commanders. But it's really due to the Ravens. The Ravens move up to 5. Big Monday night game versus the Saints. The Ravens beat the Saints in New Orleans on Monday Night Football. Roquan Smith, great addition to the team. Overall, the Ravens looking like they can compete with the Chiefs and the Bills. So for that reason, they have to move up 1 into the top 5. Vikings, Ravens, though, can actually go either way. But I just prefer the Ravens right now and for the future, really. But this is not predictions. But on to number 4. 1 through 4 it stays the same. Cowboys, bye week. But before the bye week, blowouts over the Bears and Lions. Offense with Dak is looking very good. Defense, we know that's amazing. fairly well-coached team overall between the coordinators and head coach. So they're going to move up. So they're going to stay put at 4 because no reason to move them down. On to number 3, Kansas City Chiefs. Ugly win versus the Titans, but they still did enough to get the job done. So they're still a 6-2 team. So that's going to keep them put at 3. No really reason to move them down below anyone. Cowboys actually pretty close to the Chiefs in my opinion. Before a few weeks ago, I was thinking it was a close top 3. Now I'm thinking it's a close top 4 with the Cowboys in there. But the Chiefs right now at number 3. On to number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. The Bills did lose to the Jets. They're still 6-2 though, with some good wins, including over the Chiefs and Titans and the Ravens. So the Bills, we know they're an amazing team, but they're going to stay put at 2. They did lose to the Jets. No reason to move them down below the Chiefs, in my opinion, or the Cowboys. So Bills are staying put at 2. Number 1, Eagles, 8-0 now after beating the Texans on Thursday Night Football. Not the most impressive performance we've seen from them all year, but you still got the job done and you're 8-0. So I have the Eagles at number 1 in the power rankings for week 10. You can look at the trending up and trending down teams on the right side, but yeah, those kind of weird this week. They just kind of moved because mainly what was happening around them, like every week. But some interesting ones this week. You expect the Colts to move down, Raiders, Packers, so I guess that's expected. Bears 4 spots with a loss may seem weird, but again, what's happening around them with those teams moving down a lot, with the Bears not playing so bad the other day, and the Broncos bye week moving up 4 sounds a little weird. But again, teams moving down. And the Jags, same thing, move up 6 spots, but because teams moving down. So, yep, that's going to be the power rankings for week 10. Expect a podcast this week with me and my co host, Graham. But until then, see you. Have a good one.